Hey, YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is Nathan Daley. And as you know, I'm back again with another review of a very disturbing incident. You guys, listen, if you have not heard about the case involving the 6-year-old who brought a handgun to school and then shot his teacher. You guys, this is the most disturbing, like so many other cases we've heard recently where children are bringing guns to school or children are having guns, juveniles having guns, and actually shooting one another, committing crimes against another, or simply just carrying guns, having access to guns. But this, a 6-year-old, there's so much to unpack behind this particular story. But listen, I'm just grateful that the teacher herself, she's doing okay. She is truly a hero and may have absolutely saved the children inside that classroom. She suffered from a gunshot wound to the hand and then also to the chest, and she was in critical condition, but now she is okay. So prayers go out to her, the school, the children, her family, those kids who witnessed that incident. That is a completely traumatizing situation, and they're definitely going to need some counseling after that. So, I want to talk about, this story. What is going on in this country? What is going on with children? But where do we go from here, right? I think one of the biggest questions a lot of people have is how do we get here? We all know this is a very, very gun-obsessed country, and guns are everywhere. There's more guns than people, according to some recent data. And here we are, right? At the end of the day, it's not the guns that kill people. People kill people, correct? And we know that. But I would say irresponsible gun owners are also to blame. How did a 6-year-old get access to a handgun, right? And then so much that the 6-year-old had the desire to actually use this handgun against someone else. What is going on and where is this coming from? We have a gun culture in this country. Guns can be seen and shown on television. It is shown and expressed through video games, the violence. No one is actually taking the time to say, how are kids interpreting these type of messages or what they see, the games that they play? Are they really able to conceptualize what it means to have a gun and what a gun is capable of doing? One could argue that it's the parent's responsibility, which I do agree. At the same time, though, when you have a parent that's not able to properly parent a child, there should be safeguards, additional safeguards, because honestly, things are completely out of control in this country when it comes to violence with juveniles and kids. And the 6-year-old, this is way too far, way too far. According to the FBI's data and statistics, you guys, as of 2019, approximately 800 individuals under the age of 18 have been arrested and charged with homicide. And that's of 2019, under the ages of 18. You guys, that's a lot. That's a lot. And so it makes you wonder, what are we doing as a country? What's going on with the mentality of these kids? To be honest with you, I'm just grateful that the teacher is okay. Abby Zwerner, if I pronounce her name, I'm so bad at names, you guys, but this is the teacher, beautiful lady. Abby, she was shot in the hand, and then the bullet went through her hand and then struck her in the chest. The fact that she got shot in the hand just kind of lets you, to me, it alludes to the fact that she more than likely was in some type of a defensive position, a guard position, for her to be shot in the hand like that. It also makes you wonder how close the 6-year-old was to her when she was shot. They stated that, according to the news article, stated that she ensured that all the students were able to exit the classroom safely, and she was the last one to leave. Really just heroic, even being shot, wanting to go and ensure that all the children were safe and they were not harmed by this child with the gun. So, I'm going to play a little clip, though. I want to hear what the media is talking about as far as an update in reference to this case. A lot of people are going to say, well, what do you do with a 6-year-old that has, attempted murder, charge, right? You attempted to kill a teacher or an individual. What do you do? 6 years old, the child can't be charged. The child cannot be charged. People are saying, okay, what about the parents? Well, if the parents did not have that weapon secured properly, which I can only imagine that they didn't, then they would be charged, right? You could charge the parents. I don't know what they would charge them with, maybe negligence or something to that effect. But outside of that, unfortunately, how do you punish a 6-year-old? I know that the 6-year-old was interviewed along with the parent. I don't know what questions were asked. I think we're yet to kind of get a full update as far as how that investigation went. But I mean, this is scary. How do we protect, these schools now? Not only from external threats, but now internal threats. And now at elementary school, we have to be mindful that kids are bringing weapons to school. This is not unheard of, This has become a trend in this country. So very, very, very grateful that she's in good condition. She's recovering well. Prayers go out to her family, her students, the school. What those kids witnessed, I can only imagine how traumatizing that was. But that's a lot, that's a lot. But let's dive into this this article and then this news clip. I'm curious to see as to what the updates are.
This shooting was not accidental.
Police in Newport News, Virginia, for the first time are explaining what happened inside this school where they say a 6-year-old shot a teacher with a 9mm handgun Friday.
I believe that Miss Zwerner, Abigail, that she saved lives on Friday.
The chief, emotional as he shared what he says 25-year-old teacher Abby Zwerner said from her hospital bed about the moment a student approached her during a lesson with no warning and pointed a gun at her. She says she raised her hand in a defensive motion and the boy pulled the trigger, sending a bullet through her hand and into her upper chest. Police say another staffer quickly subdued the boy while Zwerner sprang into action to help the rest of her class get to safety.
Mrs. Zwerner was the last person to leave that class, and then she stopped. She turned around. She turned around to make sure that every one of those students was safe.
Only then did she get help for her wounds.
That's not surprising, but it is heroic.
Investigators say the gun was legally purchased by the boy's mother and was brought to school in a backpack, but it's unclear how he got a hold of it. The chief says it's also unclear if the parents could face charges. The investigation continues. The teacher, meanwhile, is in stable condition.
Well, what are your thoughts? This is definitely going to be interesting to kind of see how this continues to unfold. How he brought the gun in, he brought it through a backpack. What are you going to hear from a lot of parents? What are the solutions going to be regarding this? The solutions are going to be, listen, we need metal detectors. When I was in middle school and high school, we had to have clear book bags, right? So that anything inside your bag can readily be visible to an administrator and things of that nature, because we had a gang problem at our school. So, will we have to take those measures now in elementary school or all throughout school? Will they need to have metal detectors? Will they need to have gun detectors, weapons detectors? You guys, listen, it's expensive. It'll be expensive, but is it worth it? Absolutely. A lot of people are concerned about the aesthetics that having those things or implementing those things in a school will have, how it will essentially, some people believe that it will have a negative impact on the mentality of children, knowing that they have to go into a school and be distracted by the fact they have to go through metal detectors and things of that nature, or having their bags checked. They feel like that's going to disturb the mind or the psyche of the child, which I 100% disagree with. We live in a world today where comfort is taking a priority over our safety, right? People rather be comfortable or have the illusion of safety versus actually being safe or having things that can absolutely implement a safe environment, right? People complain about the police being present in schools, saying that it gives the wrong message, right? It gives the wrong perception. But again, we live in this thing where we like to have this false sense of security. Well, the problem is this now, people are going to make an argument as to what the solution should be and what they should not be. And what tends to happen in these discussions is you have parents, you have some people who are advocates of children, and they're going to make certain statements such as, we don't want to implement more police. We don't want to implement any forms of searching, clear book bags, metal detectors, or weapons detectors. We don't want to add those things into a school because it's going to cause some type of a psychological, I don't know, it makes for an unhealthy learning environment for children. I don't know. I don't think that it's going to make an unhealthy learning environment. I think that kids are going to ask questions and they need to have the answers, right? Some people are so concerned about the aesthetics and how things look, right? The idea of things being safe versus things actually being safe because you implement the things needed to make the environment safe for these kids. The whole idea that it's going to have like a negative psychological impact on children if they see more police or if they have metal detectors. It's going to interfere with how they learn. I disagree. What interferes with the child's learning is when an environment is unsafe, when the learning environment is a distraction, when you have kids who are able to conceal weapons and bring them into a classroom and shoot teachers and students. That's what distracts the actual school environment and interferes with kids, their ability to learn. So, I don't know. I don't like the argument that those people are going to make, and people are going to make them. And I challenge that 100%. I think like anything, as this country and society and civilization starts to evolve and we start seeing how things are changing, we then have to make adjustments. Some of those adjustments is going to require us to put in some additional resources that are going to make sure and ensure that we reduce the number of these incidents from happening, right? You can never get rid of them 100%, but they can be reduced significantly. And I think the start of that is going to be putting these detectors in schools, having bag checks, checking lockers. Maybe bags need to be checked before kids enter into a classroom. Maybe that's something that the teacher needs to do. Listen, we are all about solutions. And I think the problem is we don't care about how kids feel. It doesn't matter, right? The reality is their safety. How do you ensure the safety of the people inside that building? What are we willing to do to get that done? And how much are we willing to actually incorporate these things? And will it really have a negative impact on children? I think it'll be different, but like anything else, they'll get over it. We don't negotiate with children at the end of the day. And as adults, it's our responsibility to keep them safe. So what are your thoughts on this? You guys, how do you feel? Should the parents be held responsible? Should the child, who's 6 years old, should there be some type of consequence? Should there be some type of punishment? What do you do? How do you handle it? I told you earlier that approximately 800 people under the age of 18 have been arrested for being offenders of committing homicide, and so we're talking 16, 15, 14. So this is not uncommon in this country. It's very disturbing, but what are your thoughts? I'm curious to know what you think. Should the parents be held accountable, or should the child be held accountable? And what do we do about guns in schools? Anyways, you guys, with that being said, have a good night. God bless.